emphasize that to make a threat, the speaker does not actually have to be sincere, but need only appear to be sincere. And that is a very important distinction. And this distinction makes it even more difficult and complicated, that you don't have to be actually sincere. You only need to appear to be sincere. To be more exact, the speaker must intend the addressee to believe that the speaker intends to carry out the threatened act. So for it to be a threat, the intention must be to make your addressee believe that you actually intend to carry out the threatened act. Then I will go to the felicity conditions. Now, felicity conditions are simply within the Speech Act theory, which I used, and these are conditions for successful execution of a Speech Act. Again, allow me to delve a bit and give some explanation. I'll take an example of the graduation ceremony. We all know how graduation ceremonies go. There must be a designated place at the graduation square, or a place, if it is so that usually by the registrar of Kaimosi Friends University. So I want you to imagine of a situation where we have gone to church on the day of graduation. We get a fellowship together with the chancellor and a few other members of the university, and then they say, now that we are even here, why do we have to travel to the university? Let's just award the degree. Will you say that the degree has been awarded? Solicitors, it will not, because it will not have met conditions. Just like the wedding, we know how each denomination has a way of doing their weddings. So for example, if we know that weddings, there are people authorized to preside over weddings. So for example, let's assume all conditions are met, everything is there, but it turns out that will not be. A Speech Act theory, a threat is a purported utterance which does not lend itself to true or false dichotomy. The appropriateness of the situation I've explained. Next slide, which in totality becomes the felicity conditions for a threat. And there are 5 conditions. Here, S, which is the speaker, the hearer, to do A, the action. That's the first condition. The second condition, S believes H does not want A to be done. The speaker must believe that the hearer does not want the action to be done. So for example, if I threaten to give you 1 million shillings, that is not a threat, especially if you are poor and I know you want 1 million shillings. You don't want the action to be done. Is able to do A. S is able to do A. The speaker must be able to do the action. So if in a hypothetical case, a 5-year-old child who has never promised, threatens to shoot you, and maybe he cannot even carry the gun, that would not be. 4, which is called the sincerity condition, the speaker must be willing to do A. So if I threaten something, I must be willing to do it. Number 5, A has not already been done. The action being threatened must always be a future action. So in our case, I found that all these texts met the felicity conditions of a threat, as I've tried to explain. The groups, the 4 groups, promise the people to whom messages are meant to carry out unspecified or unstated attacks, war or jihad, killing, action against such as the ones threatened. Next, I think that is the last slide, if I'm not wrong. Okay, there's still the conclusion. So, as we have seen, warning and promising acts are closely related to threatening, and they were the most common nature of threat notes. In fact, warning and promise in expressing these threats. While promising, warning, and threatening have been distinguished as different types of commissive acts, in terrorism discourse, threats frequently appear as promises, which is quite in line with SAL 1975 assertion that most communicative encounters, that's an important point, they appear to be promising or appear to be warning. And we had seen earlier what warning and promising entails. So I think we end there. I think the next slide must surely be there. Can we look at the next one? Yes, we end there, and thank you very much for your attention.
Yes, members, we want to thank Professor Wenje for that presentation. Let's give him some hearty claps for the time being. Thus, one observation, I didn't know that the attacks are in the tens of thousands. Rather, the threatened attacks, and then the ones that are actually executed, we needed to know the percentage. That is a general one. The second one is about translation. Like the majority of threats, I assume, would come from Al-Qaeda and Al-Shabaab. So how did you deal with the translation equivalences, the challenges of translating from maybe Arabic texts to English? Was there any loss of meaning, or was the threat diluted in any way in counter-terrorism tweets? Like I also did a paper on terror, communicating terror, but just a section of my paper. It was on communication in the digital era in scope. So then there are those counter-terrorist tweets, which whereby now the government exchanges with the terrorists. The threatened person can respond. So I maybe that was beyond your scope, but you can just make some general responses. Then we bring in other participants. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. The first question, actually the statistics that I gave earlier there were not, in my introductory remarks, they were not threats between ones that were actually realized and the ones that have not been realized. Because, for example, the terrorists operate in a very shadowy manner for you, and it ends there. You may not know, especially when there is no post-attack communication, you may not know that what has happened here now is what they were saying they will come for us. In terms of translation, I got speakers of Arabic, both classical and modern Arabic, and we tried to maintain the fidelity, equivalence theory of translation, so that we were not, I guided them that I wanted not word-for-word translation, but meaning. So in doing that, maybe I didn't say it here, but in the paper, it's outlined steps that we made sure that we took to ensure the fidelity. Now, the third question, as you point out, it's beyond my scope, but I can say something about it, as you have said. Now, counter-terrorism communication is there, but because governments and authorities don't want to engage directly with the terrorists, as opposed to the terrorists who want to threaten and spread fear, governments would want to operate what we normally call in Kenya chini ya maji, so that you only hear when they have foiled a terrorist attack. Our intelligence has foiled a serious attack which had been, so they operate behind the curtain. So so that they can catch this. But you see, if they were also to engage, then the terrorists would know that these people have already known what we are planning. For example, in the Russian one, which happened just last month, it is reported that the Americans had known of this, but Americans only communicated to the Russians, even when they were at their very lowest in terms of cordial relations. They only communicated to the Russians, people who would get the arm. I think that's my response.
Thank you. Next, let's have questions and comments. Leonora Mugala. Yes, Leonora has a paper related to terror. So welcome, Leonora.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm so interested in that paper of Professor Ochieng. Being a linguist, I am a French. I teach French. I'm a lecturer in French. And I was just thinking about the future and thinking about terrorism, because as we have seen, it is actually a problem that is with us, and it needs to really to be fought, and especially now when it comes to communication. I was just wondering, Professor, is it possible that we develop something like a dictionary or something like, I don't know how to put it, where now we can put in that vocabulary of terrorism, so that in case anybody hears such statements, he'll be able to see that this is not a normal statement. It is a statement geared towards terrorism. So that anytime there are those statements, we don't have to call in the Arabic speakers or the French speakers or the English speakers, so that for future, we are able to have a point of reference as a resource material. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonora.
Thank you, Daktari. I think that is a comment and a very insightful one. Essentially, she's asking if we can develop a corpus of terrorist lexical items. I think that is doable. Although an uphill task, but it is doable, because all it would need is collecting those threats, many of them, and compiling a database, so that you have just, what could I call them? You have words that signal. If you have seen them, then you say this could be potentially a threat. Especially given that, as we have seen from my presentation, some of these threats look like warnings. And you see, we said, as we saw, warnings are beneficial. Some of them are come as promises, and promises are beneficial. So I agree with you, Dr. that we need to, that should be done, so that we don't think we have been warned, whom it is a threat that is coming.
Thank you. Next person. Next input. Oh, Dr. Isi.
Hello, can you hear me? May I join others in thanking you for this presentation? It is very interesting. I just have two questions for you.
I can't hear him.
He can't hear you.
Yeah, Prof.
You can come here. Come and ask your question.
Yeah, that would be better, I think.
Yes, I was saying that thank you very much for this very insightful presentation addressing a very serious problem that is facing the whole world. I have two questions for you. Number one is that when one is analyzing threats, how is it done so that you analyze a threat based on the source of it, so that one can differentiate between a real threat and just hot air, since most of this appear on the internet? And then my second question is that how does threats compare with the hate speech? Is there any way where you can look at something and say that this is a threat and this is a hate speech? Thank you.
Thank you, Daktari. Indeed, as you say, and I think I also mentioned it, some of these threats are not actualized. They become hot air, like exactly the way you said. But also, we need to note that a threat may become hot air because of what, you remember Professor Duang has talked of counter-terrorism. We may think that it is hot air, but whom it is the authorities that acted in time and foiled it. But some are actually hot air hawks. Now, my interest here is not to see whether they are actually going to be realized or not, is to see whether they constitute threats or not, so that even if they are not going to be realized, the authorities become vigilant. For example, if the Garissa University incident is the one that I found to be so sad, almost 2 weeks, there were daily, students had SMSs, it was even put on notice board, and probably young people and universities, the way the young people operate, maybe people thought it was hot air, the way you are saying, but it ended up to be hot soup, which caused a lot of damage. And I want to believe that some of these terrorists colluded with the students who are actually there. So the focus should be on flagging out what could be threats and increasing the level of vigilance, because you may never know. Now, in terms of hate speech and threats, not a lot.
Yes, we also need to remind members that like the US will take these threats seriously, and they even issue what they call travel alerts. Yes, so some of them are from intelligence, others are from the direct threats. Because Al Jazeera, and we need to note that Al Jazeera actually is a mouthpiece for these terrorists, and it is a mainstream media. So then the governments must prepare themselves just in case of any eventuality. And even the Nairobi bomb attack of 1998, I don't know whether there were threats surrounding that, because it seems to have found even the U.S. government flat-footed. So sometimes they really conceal. I think the real ones which are executed could be mainly concealed to maximize their success. That's now a political scientist also needs to investigate that. Now, yes, Consolata.
Maybe.
Yes.
Just a moment, if I could add.
Yes.
The Nairobi one, Bin Laden talked of the Mujahideen going to act against America, but they didn't specify that it would be in East Africa.
Yes.
So I think the Americans had their focus elsewhere, and that is how it was able to succeed.
Yes.
But there was a threat.
Yes. Dr. Consolata, it's Consolata who has a paper on terror. Not Cecilia. Is that true? Welcome, Dr. Mwimali.
Thank you very much, Prof. And I would like to appreciate Professor Ochieng. Actually, listening to you, I was like a student. I've listened keenly, and your paper excellent. Thank you very much for that research. I come from a linguistics background, and I also come from the international relations background. And as Professor Ojuang has said, I had a paper on counter-terrorism. I just want to add something in regard to threats. The terrorists will always issue threats, only that people don't take them seriously. And even the Nairobi, Dar es Salaam embassy bombings, they had actually given a threat that they were going to attack America and their allies.
So anybody who was an ally to the Americans ought to have taken caution. But we did not, because we thought we are very far from America. So therefore, terrorists will always issue threats. And Professor spoke at the beginning, and I think what we need to do as governments, as citizens, as non-state actors, we need to take terrorists seriously, and we need to consider negotiation. I think that is where we are missing the point. When we do not want to negotiate. When you look at the Israel, sometimes they do negotiate, not with the aim of giving in, but with the aim of buying time so that they can have enough intelligence on what these terrorists are doing. And at the end of the day, they actually come out as the winners. A good example is the 1976 Entebbe raid. They actually negotiated, not with the aim of giving in, but with the aim of buying time, getting more intelligence so that they can win. And they managed to rescue all those who had been hijacked. It was spectacular. It is one of the best rescues that has ever happened in this world. So if we can borrow from the Israelites, then I think we can win this war on terror. But I think what we lack most is patriotism. We lack integrity. Our borders are porous. Our leaders are not serious about the threats. When the threats are given, people just ignore them. Thank you very much. That is my contribution. Actually, my main area is terrorism, and I just love reading and researching on it. Thank you very much, Prof.
Yes, thank you very much. You can react to Dr. Karanja's chart.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Is it Mumali? That was just a comment, and thank you for the compliments. Dr. Karanja is asking, are terrorism advisories part of such terrorist notes? Since to terrorists, their targets are terrorists. Now, I get where Dr. Karanja is coming from, and maybe in a more lengthy presentation where we are defining terms, we should define terrorists. Because he says Palestinians are also viewed as terrorists. Now, for this presentation, we did not consider counterterrorism. But as he points out rightly, the term terrorism is very fluid, very relative. Even in Kenya, the Mau Mau freedom fighters were viewed as terrorists. Nelson Mandela was called a terrorist at one time, and later was called a nationalist. So in short, I would just say that probably from the point of terrorists, they could be viewing the counter-terrorist notes as also terrorist threats. But for this study, I view terrorist threats as threats coming from the organizations, those four organizations, which we have labeled terrorist organizations. But I'm alive to the fact that that kind of labeling can also be problematic. Right now, what is happening in Gaza, the Israelites are calling the Hamas terrorists. But from the Hamas also, they call themselves what? They call themselves resistance. And what are they resisting? According to them, they are also resisting Israeli terrorism. So I get that bit that he's bringing, although I didn't factor in that.
Yes, yes, thank you so much. Dr. Mwimali has reminded me, Consolata has reminded me that of some two classical examples, like when Boko Haram, they captured 200 schoolgirls in Nigeria, and negotiation worked partially. There was a movement, national movement dubbed Bring Back Our Girls, and it was, yes, so there is also, yes, appeal to morality. If you don't bring back our girls, then you'll bring back grandmothers. because these girls were made sex slaves, and actually some girls were released following that campaign. Then also there were 2 Cuban doctors who were captured by terrorists in Mandera, and then the message from the terrorists was that those people are safe. So you wonder what message the terrorists were passing. And after some months, the Cuban doctors were actually released. They were safe. So the way terrorists communicate and the way they respond to the counter messages is a very interesting and broad field, which requires even maybe other approaches like sociological, psychological, combined with communication and our knowledge of linguistics. So that is those are case studies. Those are just more case studies which could enrich Professor Wenjo's work. Next, we can take 2 more. Yes, 2 more before we break. Dr. Leonora wants to come back. 1 minute.
Thank you. Just 1 minute, Professor Benson. I was just wondering if Professor Ochieng can share the slides and even the presentation of the keynote speaker yesterday, Professor Angwata Jones. Can the slides be shared to the members of this conference? Thank you.
Prof, do you have any reservation?
No reservations at all, because I've already shared with Professor Juan.
Yes.
And he can share.
So the Secretariat will share with the conference participants. Thank you, members.
That's in order.
Yes. The last comment or observation? If not, let's clap for Professor Wenjo one more time. Then we will give us 10 minutes for the ICT team to create the breakout rooms, and then you'll be able to join the rooms after 10 minutes. Room 1, Science and Technology, will be chaired by Dr. Samuel Apima. Room 2 on Health will be chaired by Dr. John Aisi. Room 3 on Climate Change will be chaired by Dr. John Aseta. And Room 4, Cross-Cutting Issues, Language and Communication, in brackets, will be chaired by Dr. Nixon Sangili. So, session chairs, take your positions. The breakout rooms have been created. So you go to on your panel, on the left panel on your desktop or on your laptop, you see breakout rooms. Click on breakout rooms, then the rooms will appear to the right, and then you say ask to join. You click on ask to join the room that you are targeting, and you will be rerouted to that room. If you want to leave a room, Johanna, people had challenges leaving the room. Kindly come and explain. If you want to move between rooms, where do you click? You close. You close the tab for the room and you go to the main room. You choose a new room. You ask to join an alternative room. Okay, fine, thank you. So, members, we are free to join our rooms, and the chairs will guide you. We ask chairs to manage time properly so that at 12:30 we break for lunch, and then we can have a shorter afternoon session so that we can finish early today. So by 3:30 we should be closing. Johanna, do you want to explain something? Okay.
Thank you, Prof, for giving me an opportunity to explain about
breakout rooms.
And how maybe once you are in a room, you can be able to get out of the room. So once you go to the users, just above it there is a breakout rooms. Once you click on them, you'll see the first room, which is Science and Technology. Then there is a second room which is health, and there is climate change. Then the last one. Once you click on ask to join, you will get a new link. You will be redirected to a new tab. Once you have joined the new tab, you will be able to get out of the conference and get into the new tab, which is the new room where you are in. If you by accident you got into a different room and you want to join a different room, just you close the tab and go back to the main conference, then again go back to breakout rooms, then ask to join the correct room which you are supposed to join. Thank you.
You can edit that health and you need to edit. So members who are physically present, you can take tea, welcome to take tea. And you call for the chairs who are up there to come and take tea. And then we, at 11:15, we call those who are the ICT people and the technicians, and let them not call the watchmen. They take tea.
Yes. Huh? You have to go up because we need to record.
There are headsets.
Professor Benson, I'm using my phone and I'm not able to appear there.
That's Leonora.
Yes.
Let me tell the technician to take you to room 4.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
You're recording today? Okay, you're recording. Welcome. Yes, plus headsets.
Very good. Very good.
Yes, just take tea ready for
Oh, tidak jauh. Maaf, ini mobil anu. Koordinasi itu 500 deh mobil itu. Ya di gitu. Money made first, no. Grata no do phone karama. N 49 86 21.
Yes, I hope all of us are fine. This is room 4.
Prof, kindly mute your microphone. Let us all mute. And we appeal to you to join the breakout sessions. Those who are still left in the main room. Leonora, you've not managed to join room 4?
I'm in room 4 ready.
Okay. We need more people in room 2. In room 1, Science and Technology, let's give them audience. Yes, they can start, but we need more, to mobilize more, to join Science and Technology from the main room. But they can proceed. So session chairs, you can proceed. It is 11:30. Let's manage time properly and see where we are by 1 o'clock. Yeah, I think she had 2 gadgets. Huh? She has joined room 4. No, she has joined room 2. I think they have numbers now.
I can see people changing rooms now.
Africans are very difficult. You know, I saw people missing mandazi. Zilikuwa zimejaa.
The numbers are adding up. I just want to make a vote. Session.
Nini na screen hiyo?
You are streaming also that one.
Dr. Buenya, are you in?
Yeah, meanwhile,
I hope she joins.
you can
We
kindly
have
continue.
Solomon.
Okay, thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Members in the room.
Luvonga, you are in.
Members in the room, is it morning or afternoon? Good morning.
Luvonga, you are
Good
raising
morning.
your hand.
Yeah, this is Dr. Amos Wanjara,
I hope it's an indication that you are in.
a doctor in pure mathematics, currently a lecturer at Kaimosi Friend University.
And then lastly, we have
in the Department of
Deborah
Pure and
Nyanchama
Applied, in the
Oyoka.
Department of
AB 52.
Mathematics and statistics.
So in total,
I was
we are
almost
expecting
doing the other department. So the title of our research today is on conditions for which a fractured space not containing C naught is simply the. Okay, I will explain for which bracket space not containing C naught admits the Gelfand freeze property. So just allow me to simplify the topic because we might be having some who are not in pure mathematics, but they're in the room. So in pure mathematics, we talk more about spaces. And in mathematics, to make it simpler, and talk about a space, we must begin from a set. A set. That set. Are you getting me?
We are getting you. Continue. Although Brother Cyprian can.
Mogo is in the wrong room. Mogo is in the wrong room and he's saying he's not getting anything.
Oh, let's see if we can contact him.
All right. So I'm saying that in mathematics, in pure mathematics, we really talk about spaces. And just to make it simpler because of some members in the room, we talk about a space, we simply, we must start from a set. The set, that set must be containing elements. We cannot talk about we cannot talk about an empty set to give us a space. Otherwise, it will be a null one. So every set which is non-empty can have properties or axioms or conditions defined on it. Therefore, depending on the conditions or the axioms defined on that set, it will turn out to be a space whose name can be defined depending on the conditions or the axioms defined on that non-empty set. Therefore, for this case, we talk of a fractured space. So a fractured space, it simply means, first of all, that we know we must have a set which is having elements. That set is non-empty, and therefore we talk about a fractured space. It means there we are talking about a fractured space is simply a locally convex topological vector space. It means therefore we have an empty set with conditions or axioms defined on it. So basically, a fractured space there we are talking about a locally convex topological vector space. Then we are talking about here Gelfand-Phillips property. If we have that non-empty set with the conditions defined on it, or have the girlfriend fleet property is still open. And therefore, in this study, we simply investigate the conditions on which a fractured space not containing the space of converging sequences can admit the girlfriend fleet property. So what is the purpose of the study, therefore? The purpose of this study was to establish the conditions for which a fractured space not containing the space of converging sequences can admit or can allow the girlfriend property to survive. Right. Basically, what do we have in the introduction? In the introduction, we simply have some basic terms there. Like I said, that we normally use arbitrary letters. In this case, we can say that a space A is said to be girlfriend fleet property if every limited subset is less compact. Then we have some spaces there given as examples. But of interest in the introduction, just to build up on the problem statement, there is a question which was posted by Talagrand, which of course appears in reference 7 in the full paper, and he raised a question, and the question simply says that if X is a Banach space not containing the space of converging sequences, does it have the Gelfand-Phillips property? And therefore, this is what has brought the gist of this study, where we give conditions which imply that a fractured space has the Gelfand property, even if it is not having the subspace of converging sequences. And therefore, we shall have under methods, research methods. We are allowed to use some literature. So the research methods are based on some literature related to fractured spaces and the Gelfand-Phillips property. Therefore, in this section, as a research method, we shall also have some definitions, remarks, propositions, but all these must be, of course, related to what we are doing, the Gelfand-Phillips property. And lastly, we shall have the note that will be used in the results and discussion section. And because we have on the screen here, the first definition is simply giving us when a space is having the Gelfand-Phillips. The second definition, which is appearing in the sequences within the fractured space, the Gelfand-Phillips property. Definition 4, which appears in reference 7 in our main paper, now gives a basic. Remember, a Banach space is a nice example of fractured spaces. So it also gives when we have the condition for which it will have the Gelfand-Phillips property. And a method still, we also have some propositions. So we have proposition 2, proposition 3, proposition 4. All these have some axioms which can be connected to the fractured spaces and the Gelfand-Phillips property. And that will help us to achieve the purpose that is just in summary. So proposition 2 is giving us a summary of axioms related to operators and also...
Let me cut you a little bit short.
Yes.
The person called Cyprian. Cyprian, mute your microphone. Kanjara, just Cyprian, you're able to get us. Kindly mute your microphone.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So we have said proposition 2 is giving us a related concept with the axiom pegged on it, but touching on the relative compactness. Proposition 3 is giving us axioms, but touching on conditionality of compactness. And axiom proposition 4 is also giving us the connectedness of sets within the spaces. The notations. I don't know why our screen does not capture those notations well. So we have notations there, but we have how we have defined them in the work, where we have a notation that captures a fractured space. Because we said for us to talk about a space, we must have an empty set with conditions defined on it. So we had a notation there. If we had the hard copy, we have posted it here. I don't know whether the software, it is the software which is not reading my notations well. Then we also have a notation which captures the closed unit ball of our space. That notation, then we also have a notation which captures the surface of the closed unit ball. And lastly, a notation that gives us the compact subspace of the unit ball. In the results, we have basically two results. We have theorem 1, and it is in theorem 1 that we have given conditions. So for this case, we say that if the condition, the notation we were using for a fractured space was capital psi for the mathematicians in the house. So we used capital psi for fractured space. Then the closed ball of that capital psi was given by C psi. So in this theorem 1, we are saying that let psi be a fractured space, then a closed ball is given, and we also have a compact subspace. Then we say that psi has the Gelfand field property, even if it does not contain a space of converging sequences, provided the following conditions are holding. So first, it must be sequentially compact. It must be sequentially pre-compact. It must have a compact set. We talk about some norms within that space that obey condition 2, and we must define an equivalent norm that satisfies condition 3. Then we have sequentially pre-compact subset as per our proposition, which was in the method. And lastly, the psi will therefore it will contain the Gelfand field property. If we move to the next slide, is just a summary of the proof. The proof of our first theorem. And this proof is connecting the axioms all the way from 1 to the last one. Basically, in summary, what does theorem 1 tell us? Okay, so Theorem 1 simply establishes that if a Frechet space has a compact subspace, then it has the Gelfand-Phillips property, even if it does not admit the space of converging sequences. In summary, that is for our first theorem. Then our next result is theorem 2. In this case now, we think of the Frechet space as being, first of all, as being separable. In other words, we can have complemented sums of two Gelfand subspaces, so that we can pick a limited operator and check how it connects between two subspaces which are complemented. So again, we have a range of the properties that can allow theorem 2 to hold. So one is that the two complemented Gelfand-Phillips spaces, the two must have the Gelfand-Phillips. The two must have the Gelfand-Phillips property, and the two complemented separable Frechet spaces must also admit the Gelfand-Phillips property. At the same time, the two complemented sum of two Gelfand subspaces must bear the Gelfand-Phillips property, and therefore they can admit the Gelfand-Phillips property. Therefore, it means that the Frechet space must be compact as a condition for Gelfand-Phillips property. Therefore, it bears compactness property as admitted as a condition to admit the Gelfand-Phillips property. We have a proof for that result of theorem 2. Again, the proof runs all the way from axiom 1 to 6, but it interconnects them to show that they are equivalent. And therefore, in summary, what does result 2 give us? Result 2, that theorem 2, it simply gives us, it admits Gelfand-Phillips property. So for result 2, it has got two very important attachments to it. The Frechet space must be separable as complemented sum of two Gelfand-Phillips spaces. Then allow me now to move to conclusions. This study established some conditions for which a Frechet space not containing the space of converging sequences admits Gelfand-Phillips property.
Smirnov, we tested at a significance of 5% significant level, and when you look at our highlighting, where the level of significance, it is above 0.05, meaning that we reject the null hypothesis, the hypothesis that the data was not drawn from a normal distribution. Next slide. We also did at 0.99 and 0.99, 0.99 and 0.991, and the VIF was above 1. So you find that our interpretation is, if the tolerance value is nearing 0, and the VIF factor
the variance inflation factor is above 1, it shows that this data was not biased. We also we correlated assessment models, the perception and on skills and performance as per our hypothesis. And you look at when we regressed it on skills and performance, it showed that it shows that our skills and performance assessment models affect skills and performance. When you look at also, it also shows our highlighting. It also shows because it is a significance plus of 0.00. So it also shows that assessment models, they will enhance the perception of these students on skills and performance. These are the models we looked at. We looked at mannequins, the hybrid simulators. We looked at use of team-based patient scenarios. We looked at use of skills trainers. We looked at the objective structured clinical examination model. We also looked at simulated patients. And when you look at it, you find that the respondents on hybrid simulators was less, and those of mannequin were above 50%. When we looked at simulation models used in skills laboratory assessment, we look at we actually gave students all the models, and they only to tick the 3 models of mannequin, OSCE, and simulated patients. And it is worthy to know that these students, they actually, I don't know if they were able to relate OSCE as a model or as just as a tool for assessment. Because when you look at our data and the use of mannequins and the use of simulated patients, you find that the use of simulated patients were higher than the 2. And when we further interrogated this result, we found that as much as they selected simulated patients at a higher percentage, but there are issues with those simulated patients where we are on the perception level further end. We are going to look at how they were able to respond to this data. And when we correlated it further, you find that we were able to add an educational practices according to our model, where we are using the CIPP model. And you look at, and this one, our significance was above 0.05. And so it means that assessment models were affected, educational practices affected assessment models used, but it is worthy to note that supervision did not affect the use of assessment or simulated models. Further, when we looked at students' perceptions, we actually split it into OSCE, simulated patients, and the environment. And when we look at it, we have respondents. Now we used a Likert scale, and the rules of a Likert scale is from 1 to 5, and there is you can add to get the mean and standard deviation. When you look at the overall respondents, the standard deviation was above the composite mean of 0.45, indicating a widespread in response for the items than those of the variables. So it is very interesting that as much as we had variables ranging from curriculum policy, adequacy of numbers of clinical instructors, educational practices. We had the psychosocial tools. you find that it is very interesting that these students did not look at it in a sense that it was supposed to be looked at. So it means that this data that was obtained gives us the real thing where assessment in skills laboratory improves the outcome of early learning. It is also able to prove that as much as we spend more time to prepare OSCE, but this OSCE provides a useful practical learning experience.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I want to appreciate the presentation that has been made by I have seen that mathematics had now that
You find that at our significance was of less than 0.5, so our data was significant. At 95% confidence interval. So on our conclusions and recommendations, the first 2 points are on conclusions where simulated models used in clinical learning experiences enhance critical thinking, they promote clinical judgment and helps in clinical problem solving. OSCE is a competency-based tools, but it's also widely used in clinical teaching. That is from our results. And on our recommendation, you see that OSCE as a competence-based tool should also be adapted both as a model of clinical simulation teaching and as an assessment tool. When it comes to training institutions, we are saying that these training institutions should enhance the number of the simulated patients. They should have a data bank, or they should have a bank of those patients that they have trained for the purposes of doing clinical assessment. Chair, thank you.
Benjamin, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Can you turn to your slide number 15? Slide number 15?
Yes.
Are you there?
Yes.
Yes, I can see you have highlighted on the section about a p-value of 0.8.
Yes.
And the lower limit of your significance is from minus 0.9
yes.
to 0.74.
Yes.
What does that mean?
It means that when you are when you are looking at it, as a perception was our constant, we introduced a perception also, and also introduced supervision and educational practices. So, and we had a 95% confidence level. We find that at 84.6%, if we get 84.6%, it means educational practices will not affect the level of perception here. But if it's 95% confidence level, it means practices will affect of students on this.
You know, the p-value here is 0.8.
Yes.
And
yeah, it is 0.8, and our p-value, our p-value is 0.8 here.
Yes.
And initially we said that if when we are regressing, if our p-value was less than 0.5, it could mean that it's affected by education. The perception are affected by educational practices.
Yes. So what this results in my view, is that your 95% confidence level includes 0. It's a null value. So it means whatever you're testing for is not significant. So you look at the statistics, because it's ranging from minus 0.09, passing through 0 is a null value, to 0.074. So please look at it.
It is, I don't know if there is a difference between confidence level and level of significance, right?
Yes, we are testing the same thing.
Yes, it's the same thing, but you're saying different values.
Yes.
And if it was a confidence level of 95%, it means 0.5. If it was over interval level 0.05, it will mean we are testing the level of significance at 5%, right?
Yes.
So here, our perception. Here, I'm sorry, I was speaking to myself. I'm saying if it is at 95% confidence level and 5% significance level, it's the same thing. So let's look at it at 5% significance level. We are using a value of p-value of less than or equal to 0.05. But here we are using more than or equal to 0.5. Right?
Yes.
So if I introduce that, is there any difference?
And I was just making a comment on your educational practices.
Yes, on educational practices.
Yes.
And I would say that on educational practices does not affect the perception level. The same thing we are talking about. It's the same thing, but supervised by the perception. When we look at our model, the first model, where we looked at we have the context, input, process, and the product. And we said all this, and our hypothesis was there's no difference in skills and performance on those outcomes. So we are saying the same thing you're telling me, the same thing you concluded, Chair, is the same thing I concluded. Because it means we reject. But on supervision, we accept, right?
Yes.
Thank you. That is what I meant.
Correct. Okay. Is there any other person with a question to Benjamin Mamalwa? Okay, great. If you don't have, then we shall go to our second person. We are going to our second presentation by Madam Damaris Mora. Would you like to remove for it right?
I'm in. Good morning.
Yes.
I can hardly hear you. You're not clear. There's a lot of background noise.
I have muted.
Yes. Morai, you can present yourself or move for you the slide start.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Damaris Mora. I'm working at Most Friends University, the Department of Nursing, as a midwifery lecturer. So I'm going to present on the nursing informatics in improving quality of patient care, considering the associated patient outcomes. So that is my presentation outline, the background, the problem, objectives, literature.
What is this?
And I will combine the results with the discussion.
It's covering the side. I have to remove this.
Yeah, you can move this towards the right.
Just a minute. Sorry.
Would include them being words. Some will be words, numbers, others are symbols, and then we have the position being the prefix, suffix, or infix. According to KAFU 2015, we realized, but in this study we are hashtags. We also have some written even in Kiswahili, which is our local language here, rather national language. Let's move. Those are the 8 types that KAFU gives to us or was able to identify. I hope you are seeing them. Move to the next slide because of time. Then we have pragmatic functions of hashtags. What are the various communicative goals that a speaker or a content creator would fulfill by using a hashtag? We find that there are several scholars who have looked into hashtags, and especially those of Twitter, those used in Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We have Zapavina and Scott. Then we also have Wickstrom. They all were able to identify various functions. Because of time, I hope you are seeing some of them, which include being expressing the topic or identifying with the topic, expressing attitudes, metadata annotation, etc. Please, you can go through the slides later. So the purpose of this study is to present a pragmatic contribution of hashtags on TikTok, so to show how this helps to achieve optimal relevance for the intended audience. The research methodology, data mining was done on captions on posts of the 10 Kenyan celebrities on TikTok, and it's only those posts that had a lot of people viewing, had a lot of viewers that were considered for this study. So it was purposively done. Then the sample, because I only considered the Kenyan TikTokers, then the data was subjected on qualitative, semantic, and content analysis. Sorry, take me back. And therefore, KAFU as the relevant theoretic approach in order to present the morphosyntactic structure and the pragmatic functions of the hashtags. Next. That is the classification of hashtags that were identified in this particular study. We have those that have a hashtag, then after the hashtag, we have an acronym or an abbreviation. Then we have those with hashtag 1 word, hashtag 2 words, 3 words, 4 bars, then letters. And these hashtags comprised of 2 words. Then we have some with 1 word, 3 words. You can see the frequencies. So it means there were some posts that were realizing of only hashtags and most hashtags, which means they appeared as suffixes. It's only one that occurred as a prefix, and there were no Infinix hashtags.
I can give you 10 minutes, but Paul Haemba kindly mute. Paul Haemba.
We are moving to the pragmatic.
You have 2 minutes.
We have a topical marking, and we have an example. I don't know whether I'm going to go through the examples or what am I going to do, because there is a TikToker who had posted, and the hashtag was food. There is another one, food.
Deborah, you seem to have.
See a hashtag with them, you will really relate his content with whatever he does. And so they are trying to publicize themselves. Then we have those that give you background information. It's written #Kenya. It then which would most of the time content, and they would to some extent relate with your content. Then we have and have that. Then there are those express.
Your network is really doing you bad. You are done?
Yeah, my network.
That was stages of your presentation. You have your voice, so audibility was an issue. Thank you for presentation. You took 3 minutes. I can see you are there. You are unmuted. I'm not yet able to see your slide on my email. Any Sangili, you might have missed maybe a letter.
Yes.
I can't see it even on the spam.
Sangili. Okay.
Yes. All of them small letters.
And quality education in one of its concern on education in terms of accessibility, in terms of retention. These elements have to be harnessed. And what is the nerve center aspect of activities? And that is to looking at the school account. Other concern of this accountability of institutions have been involved in financial misappropriation, abuse of office, other forms of discipline in physical management or finances. And that is what concerns to us in the education sector, so that we can safeguard the resources. We have issues to do with the hidden costs which are being charged in some of our institutions. And remember, the former cabinet secretary, the late Professor Gowan, was so keen on this, so much so that he had even to conflict with some of the management of our institutions to avoid this hidden cost, because it was
just a minute, Dr. Ari. I'm just realizing that you may be in the wrong room. Looking at room 4.
But because talking of the
I don't know whether are you supposed to be in the mornings. I mean the morning session or the afternoon, because what I can see on the program,
yes,
the people who are supposed to be presenting Paul Wanyonyi, and then we have Lubonga, and then Deborah, and it was centered around language, linguistics, literature.
But the concept of cross-cutting issues goes beyond the parameters that you have mentioned.
The specifics were that it is language and communication 1.
Okay.
So I'm guessing that you may be placed in another room that may not be necessarily this one.
I don't think that is the case, because if you look at the classification of the rooms, and
actually, yes, I've actually seen where you are. You are supposed to be in room 3 from 12 to 2, where we have economic revitalization 2, chaired by Dr. Margaret Atieno. I've seen you. You'll be the first person, AB 25. Musungu Daniel and Ben Oseno.
At what time?
From that will be the afternoon session, immediately after this one.
Okay.
Yeah, because the reason is we may not be so good in accounts for us to be able to go through, ask a question or whatever.
Yes.
Because we are purely linguists.
Okay.
Yes, that is. But you are supposed to be in room 3. Afternoon. That is where your paper is located.
Thank you so much for that information. Let me redirect myself to room 4.
Yes, kindly. So that. Yes.
Dr. Sangiri, as the Dr. Sangiri redirected to move to room 3, yes. I also wanted to know, because if you look at the program, I'm appearing in room 4, and I'm not a linguistic person. I'm actually a marketing person.
You are a marketing person.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the program may have erred, but looking at it from where I'm supposed to be, room 4.
Yes.
It is because this one is the morning session. You may be rightly in room 4. Actually, economic revitalization 3. That will be in room 4, chaired by Dr. Pani. What has happened is you've come in slightly early. You've come in slightly early. Yeah, when you're supposed to be in the afternoon.
Yeah, kindly increase your volume.
The one that is supposed to be from 12, but of course it will be after lunch. So you are just coming in early, but you are rightly. Daktari will be in room 3, and Faraj will be in room 4.
Okay.
For the afternoon session. So that will be purely economics.
The chair.
And the economic revitalization, yes.
Thanks for that guidance, but would you kindly help the technician to redirect us to the right rooms?
Currently, as they are constituted, the morning session, room 3 is climate change, chaired by Dr. Seta, as it is going on right now.
Yes.
And then room 2 currently is on health 2, and then room 1, science and technology 2, chaired by Dr. Pima and Dr. John Aisi. So the afternoon session where you're supposed to be coming in is yet to be activated. We are finishing with this one, and then now you guys come in after.
Okay.
So technically your session is yet to start.
Kindly then you will share the slides with the rapporteur of the room.
Yes, I will try to link with Dr. Margaret, yes, so that she can get the slides early.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, please, thank you. I think we are now clear.
Thank you,
Dr. Karanja, Dr. Karanja, are you ready?
Yes, I.
So I can make you the presenter right away.
Hello?
Yes, you are now the presenter. You can project from your side, and then you carry on.
Okay.
Yeah, if you encounter a problem, we are here to help.
Is it coming now? There is one already on the screen.
Yeah,
remove that one.
It will just automatically replace. It will automatically replace. Once you click on the plus and then upload, it replaces the one that is on the screen.
Yes, yes.
Shiro, do you know new dining hall? You'll be shown. Opposite for sure. And that you go with that. You don't lunch next to the gate. On your left when you're exiting. That is the big building. You go behind it. That's for rest of the sort.
Thank you.
Now, the methodology, we did a systematic review, integrating themes emerging from relevant articles and comments from interviews from the previous studies that were done between 2010 and 2023. Our study comprised articles that were related to nurses or were here to, were looking at nurses and workplace violence. The choice of this data or group was intentional, as international data show that this sector we also noted physical injuries such as fractures. So what are the strategies that people think or the papers brought out to suggest how to prevent occupational aggressiveness? We found that provision of adequate resources to reduce waiting time, as indicated in most of the articles, they were analyzed under this thematic area. So if the resources were provided, it means waiting time for some procedures will be reduced. Others, we found some articles talking about including nursing curriculum in the nursing trainings, patient information, where we are advising nurses to inform patients at every step and whatever is expected to come. Then we are also looking at the possibility of having security within the hospitals, where maybe we can have the police or the security personnel deployed to hospitals, like it has now been done. Most of the universities are having security deployed to just cap on the possibility of these incidents. And also, we also have chemical and physical restraints as other modes of or strategies to prevent this aggressiveness from taking place. So in conclusion, on the basis of the reviewed studies in this survey, nurses experience high levels of physical abuse, mostly encountered at the emergency departments. Patient relatives are the most perpetrators reported to instigate violence to nurses at their workplace. Nurses working in departments that require urgent interventions are at risk of violence from patients and patient relatives when they delay in offering services to the patients, which is occasioned by shortage of resources. Following an incident of violence to the nurse, he or she exhibits burnout symptoms that results in poor work output. Provision of adequate resources in terms of staff and equipment is the most likely strategy to contain workplace violence. We recommend future research to determine the specific factors, including staff characteristics and the environment, associated with the high levels of physical violence reported in the hotspots, including such areas as emergency departments. It may be necessary for schools of nursing, the schools of nursing to include units on recognition, care, and strategies to deal with workplace violence in their curricula, as nurses will most likely be exposed to this behavior in their workplace once they leave their training institutions. Okay, that's all the end of my presentation, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Joseph Ndoboyo, for this yet another very educative presentation on workplace violence, particularly against the healthcare providers and specifically nursing. Now the presentation is open for discussion, and you're free to ask questions, seek clarifications, etc. Yes, please. Fine. Yeah. This guy can assist you. Are you here? Are you next year? No, I'm saying in this building, in this physical. You're supposed to present this year. Yeah, you can look for your space. No, it was not. That's why I'm not even aware that you're.
Thank you for coming. Yes, good. Then you go to lunch. I hope you did this lunch. No. You go to the new dining. You have our lunch at 1:30. Yes.
And lastly, we may recommend that all languages have a way of expressing their grammatical categories, and thus, for the English to be successful, the translator needs adequate knowledge of grammatical categories in both languages, and that there is need to review the Kikamba Bible translation to correct the mistranslations arising from problems of grammatical categories. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mary. I think that marks the end of all presentations in our class or in our room. I now want to up to around 1:30 for discussion. Anybody who has a question or comments to build the works that were presented by various scholars, please, you can unmute, ask or comment, and all the presenters kindly be on standby, be in and ensure that you are taking the comments, and if a question, fielding a question, you give an appropriate answer. Members, the floor is open. Anybody you can pick, any of the presenter without any specific order. Members? Maybe to start it off, I will want to start with the very first presenter. I don't know whether he's still on or he left, because yeah, so if he's in, I think he can take these questions. That one, how do the patterns of the narratives in Sihevo build each other towards, giving us a bigger plot or a complete wider plot? And what is the significance of each element within, or a smaller plot within the bigger plot? Two, how long was the recording? Because you indicated that you did one live recording. How long did it take? Was it able to give you all the information that you wanted, all the data that you wanted? That is two. Now, three, we usually have some cultural specifics that are a bit sensitive. Sometimes you are not even allowed as a researcher to be closer or to record. Were you given permission into the depth of the secrets of Sikhebo if they are there? Or how did you go about collecting data that is very sensitive? And then four, the performatives. How did you approach the performatives in your video analysis? In other words, did you do a descriptive analysis of how the initiates were dancing or being circumcised? How did you approach the performatives within your research? For the second presenter, Madam Moyoka, in terms of age, the people who are on TikTok, was it a factor in determining or playing a part in your research? If yes, so which age group did you go for? And why did you choose this age group? If it is affecting your research. So that one you can also answer us. And then lastly, Dr. Karanja, the research on translation. I know in translation studies we have what we call untranslatables. And looking at it from the point of view of culture, where the Kambas have their culture and the Bible having very strong foundation in the Jewish and Aramaic cultures. Do we have a conflict maybe, or is it the one that is now causing all the ineffectiveness in terms of translation? Or the translators were able to deal, though not perfectly, but satisfactorily, in dealing with the conflict of the two cultures where the language of translation is involved? And then in terms of data collection, was it reading word for word from Genesis up to Revelation, or how did you specifically pick on the data that was analyzed? So you can also shed light on that. And then lastly, in terms of ineffectiveness, and especially in the church sermons, when somebody's interpreting, do they also realize we have a mistake here and they do correction, or they just also go through taking it that it is already a sacred book, has been translated, and therefore every error can be carried on? Or they also stumble and they try to realize, no, this one was done very well, so we can do corrections as we interpret, as we go. Thank you, members. Any other question members feel they can ask, kindly you can take to the floor. Or as we wait for the members to formulate their comments and questions, we can proceed with the few that we have asked. Any of the presenters with without an order, a specific order, you can proceed and give a comment or a reply to the questions that we have raised.
Well, good afternoon.
Mosioka?
Yes, I'm a co-presenter with Dr. Karaja.
Yes.
I think it's
Yes.
for a meeting.
Yes.
I can address the issues that you've raised there.
Right.
I'll start with the one on cultural issues. Your concern is whether there are some terms or cultural items that are found in the source text that cannot be translated, or that they come and they cannot be translated because they don't exist in the other culture.
Yes.
I would say yes, they are there. They are there. Actually, I mentioned this is a part of a wider study that has been done on translation, and those issues are also addressed when we come to lexical equivalence. Like when we come to concepts of words, there are some words that represent items in a given culture that may not be there in the other culture. And if an item does not exist in a given culture, then it means that the language does not have a term for that. But we are talking about strategies. Translator can make use of strategies to overcome that. And in many cases, the translators may not get a term that is close. So we are saying that in translation strategies, for them to make it better, they can come up with a term that is close to that. And if the term is not there, then they can also make use of description as a translation strategy. And the Bible has many of those terms. Like when we talk about Tower of Babel, talk about chariots of fire, and I like giving that example. The chariots of fire in the Kikamba Bible is translated as Macasia. Macasia means that is drawn by the oxen when they're drawing water in a place. It get water from a distance. So when it is reduced, it loses its meaning. So we are saying that instead of translating it to that one word, you can describe how the chariots look like. The Tower of Babel was. So we are saying those words are there, but a good translator then can make use of a good strategy to achieve that. Your second question is on how we did the sampling, whether we read the entire Bible. No, we did not. But the Bible is divided into some categories that I would say they are religious based. So we pick just one from each category and just one chapter from each category, and be able to get a data that will represent ideally around everything that we needed to work on non-equivalence. So there are seven categories, sorry. So from each category, we picked a book. And from each book, we picked just one chapter. And we thought that adequately that would represent the literature in the Bible, and they gave us a good data to work on what we're working on. But other question is whether the preachers will now stick to that, whatever is in the Bible, for them to achieve what they want to achieve when they are preaching. Okay, this could be a tricky one. In Kikamba, we have 3 versions of the Bible. There is the old one that was translated in 1975. We have another one that came in, and then the latest of 2011. 2011 is actually the second one, yes. And then Professor Beatty, before he passed on, he had translated again the Bible, the entire Bible on his own. So we have his version. But now the preachers will have differences on which book to pick, and more often than not, each preacher wants to pick the book that he finds, the version that he finds well and good for him. Why? Because they are also encounter the dialects. So the ones that use the Machakos dialect, the people in Makueni would not want to make use of it. The one that depends on the Kiti dialect, the others will not want to make use of it. And they will tie it again to the person who translated it. So there are cases where the preacher will just stick to that one translation. And of course, they will not want to get out of what is Bible. They would want to stick to it. And that is why actually many mistranslations would come in. Mistranslations will come in because the preacher would sometimes also just stick to the literal translation of what is in the Bible. So if the translator uses a given word, the preacher sticks to that word. And at the end of the day, there is some message that is lost in the process. So I would say, yes, many preachers will stick to it as the gospel truth.
Yeah, thank you. I think you put in a beautiful topic of dialects. I didn't know that it is also affecting the Kikamba Bible translation and the translators being affected. But I also believe that you also factored it in your entire research, the dialect issue.
Yeah, I did. Though it wasn't one of the objectives, but I did. I looked at.
But it arises. Thank you.
It arises.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we can proceed. Any other member on translation? Yeah, we can move to the other presenters who are to answer or give us comments. Deborah, the issue of age category in your research.
Hello, would you say that?
Yes.
I haven't got you clearly.
Yes, we wanted to know if in your research you factored in age. Now that TikTok looks like it is taking or capturing people of 50 years and below to around maybe the teenagers. I don't know whether within your research there is that component, and if it is there, is it affecting your data in any way?
I really do not factor that. I hope to consider that.
Okay. Yeah, right. Paul, you also had a question to answer, or a number of them. Paul? Paul Wanyonyi Haemba.
Chair, I joined late.
Oh yes, Prof.
Yes, I just wanted to pass Dr. Jane Bwana's apology.
Okay.
She hopes to be slaughtered in the afternoon.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fine.
I missed Deborah. I was coordinating a number of things.
Yes.
But just from the title, I'd like to ask her. TikTok. I thought TikTok is a pictorial. Huh? So what was her focus? What was her data?
Yes, Deborah.
The main content is pictorial.
Prof, it's a short video sharing application.
Yes.
Mostly, even if you have the pictorial bit, you'll have to accompany it with effects which are mostly sound.
So you transcribe the sounds?
No. Mostly the content creators would have some captions, and these captions have hashtags.
Also, it's
so when they are posting,
yes. Okay, fine. I hope you share the paper later.
I will.
Okay. So what is their main function? Do they help in the interpretation?
Sorry?
What is the main function of the hashtags?
They give metadata.
On the video?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So I hope that the morphosyntax here is like mostly they blend words. You may find some sheng like words.
Yes.
On Kiswahili, mostly Kiswahili and English. Kiswahili blended with English. Okay, fine. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Do you have any other person?
For Dr. Karanja and
yes,
Musioka. I followed the presentation.
Okay.
Yes, so now they have already explained. Now, what my question is that the Bible has undergone several historical changes, and word meanings have changed over time. So, are we just dealing, when they're translating, are they just dealing with the synchronic context of the word? Are they looking at the diachronic? Are they looking at the etymology of the words? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I want to confirm something. I was meeting with the county director in Yutuko.
Dr. Yatundu, mute yourself.
Yeah? Faraja, you can mute.
So if Eunice is still around, she can comment.
Eunice, Dr. Eunice Musoka, she's still on.
Yes, Prof. I'm around there. I hear your question about what of course will change meaning with time, and that is where we say translation should happen all the time. So we also factored in that, and that is one of the issues that bring mistranslation, because they are still basing on meanings of words or a naming of objects that have changed. You see, like you find that there is an item that the community would give a specific name then. But now with the current generation, that item has gained a different meaning, or rather either a different meaning, or it has also even gained a different word to refer to the same.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry. So what is happening is that that is where we are really advocating for the Bible to be translated again.
Okay. So that we can have a contemporary version.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, members. Eunice was my master's student.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Yes.
In Maseno University.
Yes. I'm proud of you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Do we have maybe last of last? The very last?
Prof, can I just give a small comment?
Consolata.
Yes, please.
Carry on, please, my sister.
Thank you. Now, the first presenter, I can't recall his name, sorry about that. He presented about Sehebo.
Yes.
And I'm looking at the title, the word ritual. I do not know, but I'm thinking the word ritual may have negative connotations. How about using the word rites? That is my suggestion.
Thank you. I wish I can see him. No, I think he's still on. Well, I don't know why he cannot come online to answer. But anyway, all the comments will get to him. Rachel instead of right.
No, right instead of
instead of Rachel's.
Yes, rights as RITES.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So we shall get the comments to him, hoping that he'll be in the afternoon session.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Members, I don't know whether we are locking out anybody, a comment, a shukran, so that then we can close our class, our room, and prepare for the afternoon session. If there will be nobody, then without wasting time, I want to thank the members, the presenters. Feel that we have appreciated you enough. Thank you for giving us time to engage you intellectually and understand the thing. I believe each and everyone that came in has gotten a thing or two that can inspire better intellectual thinking or reasoning on the lines of language, linguistics, and literature. We want to break for lunch. I think by 2, we shall now be coming for the afternoon session.
15 minutes, then we have the second presenter as Ben Oseno.
No problem, Prof. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, members. I'm Dr. Amos Otieno Wanjara from Kaimosi Friends University. I have my co-author, so I will
Who has ended the meeting? That is a setting. Is that Kenneth? That's Irene. So everyone will have to start afresh. That is the timing. Meeting has ended. How did Irene set it?
I set 200 minutes.
Yes.
I don't know now how did it end.
Oh, it's the recording issue.
Oh, it's the main meeting actually.
The main meeting. So.
I'm Dr. Amos Wanjara. My co-presenter is also here, so I would usher him in so that we can proceed. At least to wind up.
You have 10 minutes.
Yes, okay.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, fine. This is Paul Ogembo, together with Dr. Amos Wanjara. Now, our topic is implementation of affordable housing programs in Kenya, controversies and way forward. So, problem statement, affordable housing program was one of the 4 agenda of development proposed by the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2017. The scheme was geared towards helping low-income earners within the urban setup to acquire affordable dwelling places given the poor status of housing, like, for example, the slums. The manner of its operationalization leaves a lot to be desired, hence the controversies that surround it, occasioned by citizens moving to court, especially in regard to process of funding the program. This comes against the backdrop of the difficult economic times bedeviling the Kenyan citizens. Our purpose and objectives, purpose of the paper was to assess the process of implementation of the affordable housing programs in Kenya. More specifically, the study sought to establish whether public participation was done prior to the implementation within the provisions of Kenya Constitution 2010. Secondly, to determine the constitutional authenticity of the program. And thirdly, to establish the effect of the program in regard to housing on the citizens, and to determine the way forward for affordable housing program. Now, next introduction. The work of KT on affordable housing in Kenya, it talks about status and opportunities, challenges, used literature review, and what the researcher recognized was that provision of affordable housing program in less developed countries is an uphill task due to the interwoven orientation that characterize these economies. Affordable housing program has been one of the 4 agenda for development in Kenya initiated by Ruto regime 2017. The study by Katie focused on Park Road affordable housing units in Nairobi. The findings of that study were that affordable housing units present opportunities to the informal sector, which some people are directly involved in the real construction process or indirectly involved. Now, some of the methods used in this study included descriptive survey design, descriptive statistics, and Ekman probit model, mixed methodology, Ekman sample selective model, focus group discussion, participatory and epidemiological methods, consensus model, qualitative and quantitative approaches were all used. Some of the findings of the study included that on the question whether the government did public participation prior to the implementation of AHP, it is becoming very clear that public were not engaged, and this contravened the requirement of public participation on government initiative projects that contravened the provision of the law of Kenya, the Constitution 2010. This marked the beginning of controversies that surround this well-meaning project initiative that was part of and parcel of the 4 development agenda that consisted of affordable housing, affordable health care, food security, and infrastructure. There was lack of clear roadmap map on how the project would be funded, and somewhere on the way the government declares affordable housing levy of 1.5% to be deducted as at from 19th of March 2024. A problem of this, housing is real in the urban establishment to the extent that, for example, in Nairobi, over 60% of the urban settlers are actually slum dwellers who settle in the informal sector. The trouble of this project of low or affordable housing program is just many urban dwellers are actually hustlers and may not afford to either rent or actually or purchase the program or build their own houses. The way forward would include, for example, there are many challenges of finances, technological gaps, and other bottlenecks towards the achievement of the affordable housing program. The way forward require that AHP initiators should do feasibility studies of income levels of the potential consumers and differentiate the housing according to the levels of income affordabilities. The government should streamline the legal framework for the AHPs for smooth operationalization. The government should have a policy of having a variegated level of contribution toward AHP kitty and constructing just standardized houses according to the income level, so that those with low income are also having what they can afford, and those with high income or middle income can get what they can afford. Implications of the study include that affordable housing is a new government initiative, and that is of essence for human habitation that is in agreement with the UN Habitat. The study would give some light on the policy direction towards the implementation of affordable housing program in the manner that is affordable for all based on the income levels in a differentiated approach. The study of this magnitude is hardly there in an empirical domain, therefore it will help to fill the knowledge gap that is existing. In conclusion, we could say that affordable housing project initiative in Kenya is one of the 4 agenda. Thanks for listening to us. Okay, we have finished our presentation. It's okay.
Hello, Professor. Thank you, Gambo, and
hello
for your paper.
Yes.
I can't see any other presenters in the room.
Oh, they are not. The queue. Oh, it's okay.
Will the housing supply will there be a surplus of housing units? When there's a surplus, then who will benefit from the project? How sustainable is it? So those are some of the issues you needed to address. So maybe you could take us back to, now that we have enough time, you have some objectives. Does your paper address some objectives?
Yeah, the objectives are there.
Okay, could we see the objectives?
The objectives.
Yeah, okay, I think I missed that.
The purpose just move to the next slide.
Okay, the purpose, assess the process.
The purpose of the paper was to assess the process of implementation of AHPs, and specifically whether public participation was done prior to the implementation of the program as required by the Constitution, and the other objective.
Okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, findings. Let's see the findings of Objective 3.
It's Objective 3. Take us to findings of Objective.
Findings on Objective 3.
Objective 3. Okay. So this.
Okay.
Finding. Well, Objective 3 was still addressing the issue of, I think, the constitutionality, which actually underpin and give direction as to the relevance and the clear legal roadmap towards the program.
Yeah. So it's okay. Bullet 4. Some of your findings have generalizations, like when you say that the trouble of the project is that most of the urban dwellers So we need you to actually categorize the urban dwellers, the percentage of the population. If 60% are slum dwellers, we need to know which slums are these and which projects you did not. The actual housing. Yeah, so we just solve and we join other groups. It's okay. We come back later if we.
The unit of observation of the sample, 4 sessions were held comprising of 8 participants. Data was collected. The sampling technique was purposive sampling. Data collection tools were interviews, focus groups, and data analysis was data content and textual analysis method to identify the style. Secondary data was collected through internet, journals, and textbooks. Next. Analysis. Various themes that beliefs are represented contemporary marriage points. These included identity, poverty, wealth, force, business. The study found out that points analyzed as repetition, imagery, and satire. Thereby